actually somebody called me, I don't remember who called me, and told me that the governor had been arrested.
I don't remember. I think I was on my way here to the office, and I got a phone call saying the governor was arrested. I was stunned.
It was hard for me to believe that the sitting governor had been arrested, so that's why I called it to truly verify.
I mean, yeah, the governor of Illinois was arrested by the FBI, the U.S. Marshals, I suppose. It was stunning. I must say, we heard rumors he was under investigation. No one knew it for a fact. And a lot of us had personal stories about Rod and various things Rod was doing, but it was very vague, other than our personal disagreements occasionally with the governor. But I must say, I thought the recordings, you have to hear more, but the recordings were, when I heard them, what could be more damaging to the state, the confidence of the people in the government, than these recordings? Is this how we pick vacancies to the U.S. Senate? Irrespective whether it rises to the level of a felony, is this how we're doing this?
Yeah, I was truly embarrassed, consistent with some of the things that Sarah Haine said. I mean, you know, there's a process for everything. The reason why we have laws, the reason why we have a constitution. And truly, you wouldn't think that certain projects would be leveraged in order to, or campaign donations would be leveraged in order to be appointed to a very important seat that represents the entire state on a national basis in our federal government. So it was unfortunate. I knew Rod. I knew him for a while, going back to 1995, but I had no idea that politically he would ascend to that point where he would bargain for that kind of position for his own self-interest. Well, I mean, it really didn't stand out that much to me. I mean, I was surprised by the whole ideology of what he thought was the proper way to select a U.S. senator that would represent this state on the national level. So the line didn't bother me as much as the whole incident and his whole belief in how he thought the process should be, instead of following the laws that were all sworn on the day that we, after we're elected and sworn into office.
I must say, when I heard the line, it crystallized in my mind Rod and the past dealings personally I had with Rod, that he was well-dressed, public figure, raised millions of dollars, successfully run for governor twice, been a member of the United States Congress and the Illinois House. So on paper, a successful graduate of Pepperdine Law School, but in essence, he was a petty politician. That's what the line. I once opposed one of his major legislative initiatives, and I remember receiving a phone call from a friend who's a lobbyist. This came from the governor. He wanted to pass it through this friend who had known me for years, that he was going to veto all my bills. And I thought, well, I laughed and I said, "You've got to be kidding." I was state's attorney of a major county, elected 4 times, and this guy thinks I'm a sap. And when I heard this line, of course, he pulled back from that after I called President Emil Jones and a few others about it. But the line just crystallized this guy's demeanor. He was a petty politician. He should have been no more than an alderman of the city of Chicago.
Well, clearly at that time, as Senator Haine said, there was rumors, and no one had presented any investigation to us. Nothing had been substantiated as far as what he had been doing at the time that could be verified. So I think definitely the arrest triggered the investigation by the Senate and by the House to delve into further what actions or what laws he had potentially violated.
Yeah, I have to agree with Senator Clayborne, my majority leader, that this was the trigger. It's a momentous thing to impeach or to remove an elected official who's been elected by the people. He's the governor. And like him or not, he's been elected. And he's clothed with the mantle of the people. And for us to remove that person, has to appear to the citizens to be done for the highest motives, not a coup d'etat, or simply we don't like him anymore. And the testimony which came out in the trial, Bill Haine's testimony, I thought had a litany of unconstitutional acts, usurpation of power, misappropriation of money, far beyond the effing Golden comment. But the effing Golden comment and the arrest allowed us to show the people of the state what's been going on. And you have to, I must say, the Speaker of the House, Mike Madigan, was saying this for a long time. It was falling on deaf ears that Governor Blagojevich was out of control and had little regard for the Constitution of the state. The Speaker was proven to be the prophetic voice crying in the wilderness on this.
You know, I don't remember receiving many calls at the time. I think everybody was stunned, and I think at the time prior to impeachment, to see what was going to happen, and I think people were really anxious for more information, to really delve into the issues on why he was arrested by the federal government, and because, as Senator Haine said, I mean, he was an elected official, twice elected governor here in the state. There were some naysayers, obviously, who had concerns about the governor prior to him being arrested because of the fact that all these rumors were prevalent in the community, in the public, but nothing had been confirmed. So we began to get calls. I began to get calls at least after the House indicted him, and we started the impeachment process, and clearly there was not a whole lot of support, very little support for the governor and the position he took. Clearly when the media exposed some of the things that were questioned, part of the charges, and even the release of the indictment really confirmed the fact that the accusations were strong enough and severe enough that it was time for the governor probably to move on.
Similar to James, I can't recall how many people contacted the office. There were a number, and many of them were, as James said, shock, and what do you make of this? And I had to be very careful with what I said. I had news media coming to the house wanting to know what I felt, and I had to be very careful. We had a memo from the Senate staff about if the House did impeach, we would be the jury that would try him, Rod Blagojevich. So our stance had to be, we're going to hear the evidence, see where it goes. Now, to the average citizen, that looks like a careful, mealy-mouthed political guy. But in reality, it's what any juror is expected to do. And we had to trust the people would trust us to do the right thing. And Rod was very politically astute. He developed a defense that this was all a conspiracy by President Cullerton and Speaker Madigan to take him out, because they were for raising the income tax and he wasn't, and a few other things. So he was astute. He was going to the citizens with a demagogic campaign to pressure us to ignore the evidence and acquit him.
I think the general consensus of the committee was to make sure that we had a process that was fair, that afforded the governor his constitutional rights, and a system and rules that would allow him to present his case, as well as the House to present their case, and to make sure that everybody was served under the law in a fair and just way.
Yeah, the Chief Justice by the Constitution presides over the Senate, and this was Chief Justice Fitzgerald, a man of tremendous integrity and judicial competence and experience going back 30 or more years. So fortunately, we had a first-rate jurist in the chair. Then we had to develop rules to assure fair play, that the senators could ask questions, and it would be done in an orderly manner, free from political posturing. And there was some political posturing during the deliberations. Then we had to decide if the deliberations would be secret. It was decided that they'd be open. Keep in mind, I don't think we ever removed a governor or impeached a governor, have we?
I don't think
in the
so.
history of the state.
No.
We did. I think an attorney general was impeached. I'm not sure, and removed. Maybe resigned before they were removed. But this was a whole new novel thing, and we wanted to make sure no one could accuse the General Assembly of doing this because of a base political motive, which is what Rod, as I said before, was doing with this. We were just doing the bidding of President Cullerton and Speaker Madigan and removing him. Or Frank Watson, at that time Minority Leader of the Senate, and Representative Cross, Minority Leader of the House. We were just handmaidens to those guys who had political motives. That was Rod's defense.
I thought the process was fair. I thought we did a great job with Senator Cullerton's leadership in coming up with the rules and thinking through the process to make sure that the governor received a fair and just proceeding. My only issue, I guess, with the whole process was that the governor didn't show up to the last day. I thought that truly under some limited circumstances, he probably should have shown up and put on some kind of defense. And I know that this was before his actual trial before the government, but at the same time, the fact that he could go throughout the country and do the circuit speaking engagements on different daytime television shows, surely he could have come forward to provide some kind of defense or even send his attorneys. But I thought the process was just and fair. Unfortunately, he didn't bring anyone or didn't have anyone to come and represent him at the proceedings. And I thought that at least the citizens deserve that much, having elected him twice to that esteemed position. I thought it showed desperation. Again, I didn't think he thought it through. I agree with Senator Haine. I thought he felt that he had the ability to influence the public. He had the ability to, I guess, try to get us to respond in a way that ultimately he could say that we were not fair and impartial, and that we were making judgments before we heard any of the evidence. But with that in mind, he did not show up until the last day, nor was he under oath, nor did he bring anybody to represent him during the time in which the House was conducting their case before the Senate. You would have, at least I thought, that at least he should have had someone there if he was truly saying that the FBI took his comments out of context, that he should have had somebody there providing cross-examination of the FBI and the other witnesses, but he didn't. So it really made it look like a circus, in my opinion, when he was on daytime and late night show.
I couldn't agree more. There was no one there. I don't believe we would have expected him to testify under oath because he faces federal criminal charges. No one reasonably would expect that. But he could have sent lawyers in to cross-examine witnesses if he wished, or to make statements about the context of these statements made on the wire, or to show other statements that were exculpatory, showing innocence on a wire, to show, to rebut Auditor General Bill Holland's riveting testimony about the misuse of public funds, about contracts without bids, exchange for jobs. All of the, in fact, to use that old phrase, those federal tapes were the sizzle, but the steak was Bill Holland's testimony, showing an administration marred by massive disregard of the Constitution of Illinois. And that's what he was being tried for. And then to show up before the deliberations and give what in essence was a political speech. In fact, I heard most of it on the stump in the year prior. And then to go on this circuit made himself and the state of Illinois looked cartoonish. He looked like a buffoon going around. And I if you're going to defend yourself, defend yourself. This is a constitutional system. But I felt saddened by the entire spectacle. But we considered the evidence presented, and it was unrebutted, uncontradicted evidence in the well of the Senate.
I wasn't. I thought it was the right thing to do, and that's why I voted that way.
I agree. I agree totally.
Well, obviously, the guy just made a mockery of the office and really shed a negative image on the state of Illinois, reflecting all the people who love this state, and all the people who came out to support him, and all the people who have made sacrifices publicly and privately, so that through their tax dollars and through their support of the state, that he totally embarrassed them, and we were a laughingstock. And not only that, he violated his oath of office, he violated the public trust, and once he violated those two, and many more, those two ideologies, there was no need for him to ever have an opportunity to violate the public's trust. And I thought it was the right thing to do.
I can't think of a better way to say it than Senator Clayborne's. I haven't talked to Senator Menard. That stuns me even more. That Rod would be so detached, and apparently that is the case. If he was unaware of what was happening after, what was it, 3 weeks of testimony, he was in the House proceedings, he was unaware of the gravity of the situation. It shows that he was so detached from the process that it shows, again, perhaps he was unfit for office in that sense. I mean, I find that just incomprehensible. He's a lawyer, too. He was a lawyer, a licensed lawyer. That's incredible to me. And where were his lawyers? Weren't they advising him as to what was going on, the presentation of the Senate? Wasn't he tuning in, or was he jogging around the north side? I mean, it's incredible.
I wasn't aware of it at all. Senator Menard's commented as well, but I thought it was consistent. His actions were consistent with his administration and how he ran the state. I mean, truly, he was a very political person. Enjoyed kissing the babies, shaking the hands, giving the speeches, but he never showed up for work. He didn't show up to govern. In fact, I've always made the comment that he probably never would have been caught on the wire if he had gone to work at the Capitol. But he stayed at home. I think it was afternoon when he was making these statements, and it's really appalling that he did not take this job in a very serious manner. The fact that he crossed this state up and down and north and south and east and west and told the people that they should trust him, that he's going to make things better, provide opportunities, whether it's education, whether it's safe neighborhoods, whether it's roads, whether it's job opportunities, that he failed them. And he just didn't take this job seriously, and that's unfortunate. And something he has to live with the rest of his life, if he's aware of the fact that he did do these things, and he's been convicted and judged by members and peers in his community.
No, we have a constitutional duty. The issue was at hand, forced by circumstances beyond our control. And it wasn't as if people hadn't been saying this, as I pointed out to you. The speaker was saying this for some time. Others had dealt with, as I indicated in my own anecdote, with the governor. And he had an odd view of the use of power. And by that I mean an abusive view. And it bled into many other things, such as fundraising. And it all came to fruition with reckless comments, such as, I've got this effing golden opportunity to appoint a United States Senator and aggrandize myself some way. Any politician may think that, but his recklessness in the way he pursued these goals of political power is what drove us into the position of an impeachment in the House and the trial in the Senate. We had a constitutional duty to do it. Thanks to Senator Cullerton's leadership and Senator Clayborne's leadership, we assembled a Rules Committee which had a precedental set of rules for fairly hearing these, so the citizens would see it wasn't a coup. It was truly us removing a corrupt office holder. Not an incompetent office holder, but one, because that's up to the people to do. Competence is a question for the voters. But this office holder was proven to be corrupt and base. I'm a child of the 50s, and I remember a cartoon in the St. Louis Post-Dispatch called Pogo by Walt Kelly. And Pogo once said, "We have met the enemy, and it is us." The people, the citizens, have to do a better job of filtering through demagoguery of either the right or the left when they choose their public officials. I know they have other things to do, such as making a living, supporting their families, and obeying the laws and making their communities better. But the citizens have to do a better job. This guy was elected, as I pointed out earlier, I don't know how many times. And people did not see beyond the veneer into the corrupt core. And it's got to be us in the political class who are elected doing our jobs better. This also has to be the citizens too, and the press.
You know, I would say, and I agree with Senator Haine, but I would also add the fact that the process worked, that our Constitution worked, our laws worked to get rid of a corrupt elected official, even at the highest level in this state. That the system worked, there was no anarchy, there was no violence that took place, that's taken place in other countries, that it was done in a peaceful way, in a fair and just way, and the system worked.